The morning sun rose gently over the Indian Ocean, painting the horizon in hues of gold and quiet blue. Fishermen prepared their nets. Children laughed as the waves kissed their feet. In the tourist towns along the coasts of Indonesia, Thailand, and Sri Lanka, cameras clicked, songs played, and the scent of the sea mixed with coconut and salt. It was the last morning the world would ever look this calm. Far out in the deep, miles beneath the ocean floor, pressure had been building for centuries. Two vast plates of the earth pressed against each other in silence, waiting for a single moment of release. And when that moment came, it was not a roar, but a whisper, a sound too deep to hear, yet powerful enough to shake the planet. Within hours, coastlines would vanish, families would be torn apart. An entire generation would remember where they were that day, but no one could imagine what came next. When Earth trembled. If stories like this fascinate you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It keeps history alive. It was the day after Christmas, December 26, 2004. Across Southeast Asia, life moved at a gentle pace. In Banda Aceh, Indonesia, the veranda of Mecca, families gathered for breakfast as morning prayers echoed softly from distant mosques. In Thailand, tourists wandered barefoot along the white sands of Phuket, their laughter carried by the breeze. In Sri Lanka, fishermen watched the horizon, unaware that the sea itself was holding its breath. The Indian Ocean had always been a giver of life, a place of trade, faith, and abundance. Its waters connected nations, bringing spices, stories, and people together. That morning, the waves seemed unusually calm, their rhythm slower than usual, as if time itself had paused to listen. Beneath that calm surface, 30 kilometers below the sea, the earth was locked in silent tension. The boundary between two massive tectonic plates, the Indo-Australian and the Eurasian, strained under unimaginable force. It was nature's hidden heartbeat, ticking closer to the moment of release. To the people above, it was just another peaceful morning. Children built sandcastles, market stalls filled with fruit and fish. Birds flew low over the still water, and then, far below, the planet shifted, setting in motion one of the deadliest days in human history. At 7:58 a.m. local time, the seafloor off the west coast of Sumatra suddenly heaved upward. In a matter of seconds, a 1,600-kilometer stretch of the Earth's crust tore open. The Indo-Australian plate thrust beneath the Eurasian plate, releasing energy equivalent to 23,000 Hiroshima bombs. The ocean itself rose, tilted, and then fell. The start of a wave that no one could see, but that would travel faster than a jetliner. In Banda Aceh, the first tremors came like a deep growl from beneath the earth. Houses shook, glass shattered, and birds scattered into the sky. People ran from their homes in confusion, some praying, others frozen in fear. The shaking lasted nearly 10 minutes, long enough to make the world feel endless. Then, silence. The earth stopped moving, and for a moment it seemed over. People emerged from their homes, checking for loved ones, sweeping broken glass, calling out to neighbors. The danger, they thought, had passed. But at the coastline, the sea was behaving strangely. The tide had pulled back, far back, revealing the ocean floor like an open wound. Fish flopped helplessly on the wet sand. Children ran out to collect them, laughing, unaware that they were stepping into the path of death. Minutes later, a dark line appeared on the horizon. It looked harmless at first, a ripple against the blue. Then it grew taller, darker, and faster, until it was no longer a wave, but a moving wall of water. It struck the shore with the force of a mountain. Entire villages vanished in seconds, concrete buildings folded like paper. Cars, trees, and people were swept together in a churning torrent of mud and debris. The sound was deafening, a roar of water, metal, and screams merging into one. In Thailand, tourists on the beaches of Khao Lak and Phuket watched in disbelief as the sea rushed toward them. Cameras kept rolling until the last second, capturing faces that would never be seen again. In Sri Lanka, the waves raced inland at over 800 kilometers per hour, tearing through railway lines and coastal towns. By the time the tsunami reached India, it had already claimed tens of thousands of lives. In Somalia, 5,000 kilometers away, fishermen saw the ocean rise without warning, swallowing their boats and homes. The wave had circled half the planet. In less than a single morning, over 230,000 people were gone. Parents lost children. Children lost entire families. Towns disappeared from the map. And as the waters receded, what remained was a world forever changed. The ocean, once gentle and full of life, had taken everything back. When the water finally retreated, it left behind not a coastline, but a wasteland. Streets had become rivers of mud and silence. Palm trees lay uprooted, their roots tangled with wreckage and the bodies of those who never had a chance to run. The scent of salt, wood, and sorrow filled the air. In Banda Aceh, the once vibrant city was unrecognizable. Mosques stood half-submerged, their minarets leaning like wounded giants. Fishing boats rested on rooftops, carried there by the unimaginable force of the sea. Survivors wandered aimlessly through the ruins, calling names that were never answered. Some clutched photographs, others held the hands of strangers, united by loss. Across the Indian Ocean, stories of survival emerged like fragile sparks in the darkness. A mother who clung to a floating door for hours before being found. A man who climbed a coconut tree as the waves swallowed his village. A little boy discovered alone on a beach, unable to remember his own name. Airports turned into morgues. Schools became shelters. Nations across the world watched in stunned silence as satellite images revealed the scale of devastation. In the following days, the ocean's gift turned cruel again. Diseases spread through stagnant water. Food and clean water grew scarce. Yet amid the despair, strangers arrived, rescuers, doctors, volunteers, answering a call that transcended borders and faiths. The world had witnessed natural disasters before, but not like this. The 2004 tsunami was not just an event, it was an awakening. It showed how fragile our world truly is, and how in one heartbeat, nature can reclaim everything it once gave. As the tides calmed and the earth grew still again, grief settled like dust over the ruins, heavy, silent, and endless. And in the months that followed, the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami became more than a disaster. It became a turning point in how humanity understood the planet and itself. Over 14 countries were affected. From Indonesia's shattered coasts to the distant shores of Kenya, the scars stretched across continents. Entire economies collapsed overnight. Villages that had thrived for generations were wiped from existence, their names surviving only on faded maps and in the memories of those who escaped. But in the midst of ruin came one of the largest humanitarian responses in modern history. Nations once divided by politics and oceans united under a single cause: survival. Cargo planes filled with medicine, food, and water landed on broken runways. Soldiers became rescuers. Strangers became family. For a moment, the world remembered that compassion could travel faster than destruction. Scientists and governments also began to ask questions that could no longer wait. How could so many die without warning? Why did no one know what was coming? The tragedy exposed the world's lack of a coordinated tsunami warning system in the Indian Ocean, a gap that had cost hundreds of thousands of lives. Within a year, new networks of seismographs, deep-sea sensors, and emergency communication systems were built. The Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System was established, a silent guardian meant to ensure that such a catastrophe would never take the world by surprise again. For survivors, though, legacy meant something more intimate. It lived in the small acts of rebuilding: a fisherman carving a new boat from wreckage, a mother teaching her children to read by candlelight, communities gathering where their villages once stood, not to mourn, but to remember. The ocean had taken lives, but it had also given a message: that the boundaries we draw between nations are illusions against the vastness of nature. That no matter how powerful humanity becomes, the Earth remains older, deeper, and infinitely stronger. In classrooms and memorials, in new buildings designed to withstand the sea, the story of 2004 endures. It is a story of loss, yes, but also of resilience, unity, and the quiet promise that from the ruins we can rise. And as years pass, the waves that once destroyed now serve as a reminder that in every calm sea lies the memory of a storm. There are days when the sea looks calm again, when its turquoise waters shimmer as if nothing ever happened. But beneath the beauty lies memory of a morning when time broke, when the ocean rose not in grace, but in grief. In the villages rebuilt along the Indian Ocean, people still turn their eyes to the horizon when the tide draws back too far. It's instinct now, a memory passed down, not through books, but through fear, through reverence. For those who lived, life did not return to what it was before. It became something new, a quieter existence built on gratitude, on remembrance. Every sunrise is both a gift and a warning. The tsunami of 2004 was not just a story of destruction. It was a reminder of balance, how creation and loss, life and death are forever tied by the same wave. And so the sea continues to breathe, calm, eternal, and watchful, carrying the names of those it took and the lessons it left behind. If you believe these stories should never be forgotten, subscribe and keep history alive when Earth trembles.